a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Well, hello Booktube, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. Here I am with another Friday Reads, and this one I think is going to be pretty short because I don't have a whole lot to report. I am even reluctant to characterize my reading week because so much of it was focused on Booktube Prize reading. So, it's been a week. I have one Bale to tell you about, and that was also a book that I started this week. I didn't get very far. This was the gay novel from pre-World War II Germany, Frito Lampe's At the Edge of the Night, transferred from the German by Simon Beattie. And I just found this really... And this is just one of those books that almost by page 1 I knew I would never finish it. I got to page 17. There was just an ineptness about the way that he was telling the story. I can't stand it when writers color in the background of the tale through ponderous, unbelievable, unrealistic dialogue between the characters, and that's all that I read for 17 pages. Plus inane thoughts in the head of the characters that we were allowed omniscient access to. It was just like, no, it was something in a park, watching rats and swans and maybe cruising at night. I have no idea. I didn't care. I just couldn't stand it. It just read like high school student fiction. Other people might love it. It's a personal taste thing. This guy sounds fascinating and had a tragic life. I would be very interested in reading his biography, but I will take a hard pass on his fiction, sadly. So, because of that, I decided not to replace it immediately with another one on my long TBR list of German books. I'll put that on hold for at least a week or two, and instead I swapped it out for something gay for Pride Month. Looked at a few of my shelves, and the one that jumped out at me the most was this 1994, I think, American novel, American Studies by Mark Merlis. Look at that cover. Look at that cover. This is kind of a recent modern gay classic, and I had a hardcover copy of it sitting on my shelf in Canada for years, never got to it. Yeah, 1994, and so I picked up, I can't remember where I picked this up recently, because I thought I have to read this sucker. Mark Merlis died just a couple of years ago, sadly, of ALS. The only thing I've read by him was his myth retelling, which I absolutely hated. It was the first and last novel I will ever read that's a myth retelling. What was it called? An Arrow's Flight. And if you like myth tellings, I'm sure you would enjoy it, because Mark Merlis is a phenomenal writer, but I can't stand myth retellings. I would rather read a motorcycle repair manual. Thank you very much. This is set, I don't know when it's set. I don't really like to know too much. I think it's set in the 1940s. The McCarthy era, perhaps. I'm just quickly scanning. I see some phrase, the McCarthy era. That fits for the opening pages, but my God, the prose! The prose! Since I don't have much else to say, I'm going to read you the opening paragraph, because it's a doozy, and it's homoerotic. The boy in the next bed lies sprawled atop the sheets, his gown riding up on his heroic thighs, an inch or two short of indecency. I would stare, but he is on my blind side, and it hurts a little to turn my head. They have tapped me like a sugar maple. A vial taped to my forehead over the bandaged eye is collecting some fluid I apparently don't require. Sap. Sapience. When my head is empty, it will cease to ache. So that certainly paints a picture, and it goes from there. I haven't read 10 pages yet, but it's certainly starting out grippingly. Could I get a side order of heroic thighs with that? Okay, where was I? So that's all I have to report. I didn't finish anything. I didn't expect I would. I certainly did not come even close to finishing anything. Hopefully next week I will have finished something, but I'm not going to promise anything along those lines. So in terms of what I might start next week, I will be starting Barbara Pym's last published novel in publication order, published in 1988, so 8 years after her untimely demise. It's called Civil to Strangers and Other Writings. The novel, Civil to Strangers, which I believe was written in the 1930s or maybe 1940s and never published. I'm hoping it's going to go better than the last one. is only 160 pages out of a 400-page book. I think the ebook is a little bit shorter, but anyway, it's one of the biggest books of her stuff ever put out. But there's all kinds of short stories and essays and stuff at the back. Andrew Beyond the Pages and I will start our buddy read on Monday, and we're going to finish the short novel before the end of June, and then take our sweet time to investigate all the other material collected in the book. Fingers crossed it goes better for me than the last posthumously published book I read of hers called An Academic Question, because that was a piece of crapola. And it's very bittersweet to have reached. I can't remember if it was 3 or 4 years ago, I started reading Barbara Pym's oeuvre in publication order, and this is the last one. Although I guess the last thing that Ange and I are going to buddy read is her autobiography in the form of letters. So that I won't be quite finished. And then I'm immediately going to start over. For the rest of my life, I'm going to be reading Barbara. I expect to finish at least one of the Booktube Prize books in the coming week. And if so, I will be starting the chunkiest of the 6 in my group, and that is The Night Tagger by Yangtze Chu. Because it is a chunky book. Almost 500 pages in the hardcover. Nice cover. And what the heck is it about? It is set in 1930s colonial Malaya, so I think Freddie might be interested in this one. Freddie of The Sluggish Reader, if he hasn't already read it. And I'm looking forward to diving in, and can't tell you another blessed thing about it until early August. So that literally is all I have to tell you today. And I figure, since I don't have much to say, I'm not going to pad my Friday reads with anything else. I'm just going to keep it short and sweet so that I might actually have time to read on a Friday, as I rarely have time to do any reading because Friday reads takes pretty much the day. And I know I've received a couple comments, and I'm sure more than a few of you are wondering if and when I will ever be venturing back outside on a Friday reads, and I'm not sure. I will explain why. Right now it's the rainy season, so the chances of a Friday not being rainy are small. And then we'll be into the hot, sticky, humid summer, and it will be probably too hot until maybe the end of August, or even later, maybe the end of September. And to be honest, my sleep patterns have changed. That is one of the longer-term results of the pandemic. I guess the anxiety of following the news as closely as I have been is that I carried a lot of that stress and I wasn't sleeping well. I've never slept well, but I'm usually somebody who wakes up early in the morning. But since the pandemic, I have woken up in the middle of the night and I'm awake for a couple hours. And sometimes I don't get back to sleep, but other times I'm awake for a good 2 hours and then go back to sleep. So as a result, I am no longer a morning person at all. Like today, I slept pretty good through the night. I was only awake for maybe 30 minutes, around 7, and then I actually got up just before 10 a.m. So Friday reads, if I'm not up and filming by around 7 a.m., Tokyo is too crowded and noisy to film outdoors, so quite possibly al fresco Friday reads are a thing of the past. But I never say never. I was like this. Like, I was a sleeper inner until about 10 years ago. And suddenly became old and woke up early in the morning and I became a morning person. That's gone out the window for the last 3 or 4 months. So unless I can get out and film a Friday reads around 7, maybe 8 a.m., it's pretty noisy with traffic and stuff anywhere that I might film. So yeah, might be a thing of the past. Sorry. Hope you're all well. Thanks for watching.